Let's do something really fun. Like shave Crocker, turn your dad into a woman, turn Wanda into a woman. I mean, you're the wind beneath my wings.
Yeah, so I know the question you're probably all thinking is, why in the fresh hell does this movie even exist? And the first answer that I came up with was probably capitalism and easy money and whatnot, but the actual answer is that this movie released on July 9th, 2011. Oh, I guess I should have given more detail than that. A Fairly Odd Movie, Grow Up Timmy Turner, was released on July 9th, 2011, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Fairly Odd Parents TV show, which began airing on March 30th, 2001. But this is a series that up to this point had already had 3 TV movies and 3 TV movie crossovers, so what makes this one special? Well, I'm glad you asked. Not only is this movie live action, but it's actually the canon end of the series. Or at least it would be if the show wasn't cancelled and this movie didn't get 2 sequels. Seriously, the timeline of this series is really weird, especially because of Timmy Turner's secret wish. But I am entirely serious when I say that this show takes place 13 years after the start of the series. Timmy is now 23 and still in grade school, specifically 5th grade. I feel like this has to be a danger to the other children in the room, but moving on. This movie also casts Drake Bell and Daniela Monet, who have previous positive connections to Nickelodeon, so casting them was probably the easiest decision of Nickelodeon's life. The movie was released to overwhelmingly negative reception for quite a few reasons, but it actually released to higher ratings than any other Fairly Odd Parents film that came before it. I mean, even I remember only tuning into this thing because of how absurd it looked. So just because people watched something doesn't mean that they necessarily liked it. This movie had a plethora of problems. I always found Cosmo and Wanda to look a little unsettling, to say the least. The fact that they've also now backed the TV show into a proverbial writing corner by saying this is the canonical end of the series, probably not a great move. And having the medium for this movie be live action was honestly just not really gonna ever work, especially not with adult actors. If they wanted to make this movie, they should have just had child actors or animated the whole movie anyway. Also, here's a quick lesson in Fairly Odd Parents history. Fairly Odd Parents ran for 16 years and was canceled pretty much randomly. That is, if you weren't paying attention to Butch Hartman's antics at the time. The show was never meant to run for 16 years, and Butch Hartman knew that, so he intentionally added a bunch of that he knew would tank the ratings of the show and then just left the show altogether. This is mostly just speculation, but he used to have a podcast called Speech Bubble, as well as his own personal YouTube channel. And forgive me for not wanting to dig back through all of those videos to find the exact one I'm referencing, because the stuff I'm talking about literally happened years ago. He hasn't uploaded on these channels in over 2 years. But I'm pretty sure you could dig through those videos and find what I'm referencing, because I swear he mentions it in one of them. But in terms of how Butch ended up nuking his own show, it was actually pretty subtle stuff, but it was stuff that ended up piling up over time and making the viewers more and more upset. The main 2 things being the additions of Sparky the dog in season 9 and Chloe Carmichael in season 10. It is not speculation whatsoever to say that this tanked the ratings of the show after these 2 characters aired. In fact, Sparky was the reason I stopped watching the show in season 9. Sparky was actually so negatively received that he was just dropped in season 10 of the show. They didn't even explain what happened to him. They just stopped writing him in episodes and he was never seen again after the season 9 finale. But the real nail in the coffin was Chloe Carmichael. She made ratings sink. Less than 150,000 views a night on some episodes. During 2016, for a show that had been airing for 16 years, this is something that you should be ashamed of. The show also switched from being traditionally animated to animated in Flash, which made the show considerably more unappealing to even look at. The show eventually aired its last episode and technical season finale on February 1st, 2017, after Butch Hartman stated that he would be stepping down as showrunner and Nickelodeon refused to replace him. None of the information that I told you is technically relevant to the movie, but I don't think it's too far out there to suggest that this might have been part of Butch Hartman's plan to tank the TV show. Unfortunately for him, this plan pulled in over 5 million viewers. One last quick thing before we finally get into the movie. I have no clue how long it's supposed to be. I genuinely have no clue if I am missing content while watching this. The reason for this being is I can't get a conclusive answer on how long this movie is supposed to be. If you Google the runtime of this movie specifically, it comes up with 1 hour and 30 minutes. If you Google the movie itself, it comes up at 1 hour and 15 minutes. Wikipedia has the movie listed at 61 minutes. The full movie is actually available on YouTube, uploaded by a channel called Charlie Bizzle 2007, and it's 54 minutes there. If you purchased the movie through sources like Amazon, it comes up as 48 minutes, but I'm watching it on Paramount Plus where it comes up as 47 minutes. Though I'm sure that these two are actually the same, one just rounded up and one just rounded down. If anyone is actually able to tell me what is going on here, I'll try and pin the comment if you guys have an explanation, but if you've seen this movie and I seem to be skipping over stuff, don't blame me, blame the fact that Nickelodeon apparently burnt half of this movie's runtime in a trash fire. But that's enough Timmy teasing. Let's start Timmy pleasing. It just means we're gonna watch the movie. Yeah. You know, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was actually kind of weird. We're gonna watch the movie now. The Fairly OddParents movie opens up with Cosmo, Wanda, and Poof waking up Timmy on his 23rd birthday. Wow, I didn't even realize Poof existed for this long. I thought this movie came out before the era of Poof. Okay, there is already a lot to talk about here. My main issue with Cosmo and Wanda is that their designs to me don't really translate well into a 3D space. Which makes sense, they were designed as 2D characters. Their large heads and mouths are off-putting to say the least. Not to mention they look like they're made from high-quality plastic. I know that sounds like a compliment, but trust me, it's not. Also, Timmy wears his hat to sleep. Personally, I think it's funny, but I'd be remiss if I didn't point it out. Wanda and Cosmo are of course voiced by their actual voice actors, those being Susan Ellender Blasky for Wanda and Darren Norris for Cosmo. Now obviously, Timmy Turner is played by Drake Bell for some godforsaken reason, but Tara Strong, who voices Timmy Turner in the TV show, is actually still in the movie. In fact, Tara Strong voices Poof. Imagine voicing the main character of a TV show for 10 years, and when you finally get a live-action movie, they relegate you to making baby noises. Honestly, that's a fate worse than death, and I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. Also, for some reason, a big overarching theme of this movie is Poof finally saying his first words, which is actually what Timmy wants to hear for his birthday. Unfortunately, he's gifted some highbrow humor instead. But Cosmo's gift to Timmy is $1,500 in property damage and a fight with some pirates. In this universe, Timmy is also super athletic for some reason. But just then, an Arnold Schwarzenegger clone summons into the room and tells Timmy that his time with his fairies is about to end. Seriously guys, if we had a nickel for every time that Timmy almost lost his fairies in the Fairly OddParents timeline, we'd probably have enough to pay off the student debt crisis. This is Jorgen von Strangle. He's actually portrayed by his voice acting counterpart, Mark Gibbon. Although I like live-action Jorgen von Strangle, in fact I actually think I might prefer it, I don't like that it's not consistent with Cosmo and Wanda being animated, which kinda irks me. But given the fact that he's 4 times the size of all of the other fairies in the cartoon, I think it's fine to let this slide. It would probably look considerably worse if we saw a 6-foot CGI Jorgen von Strangle. Jorgen tells Timmy that according to duh rules, it's time for him to finally lose his fairies. Although all of this is true, I actually double-checked all of the rules on the wiki just to make sure that none of the rules contradict this. But isn't the entire point of fairies that miserable kids should have them? Like, that's the entire point of the show. This nigga is 23 and jobless. He's not miserable, he's just a fucking leech. This is literally the 10th listed rule. They only grant wishes to miserable people. Regardless, none of these 3 rules actually apply to Timmy.
Grows up, he leaves home, or experiences life's true magic, love.
The only girl he's ever even kissed was Tootie, and apparently it wasn't consensual. Also, this is not a minor, this is someone who has a weird kink that needs to be addressed in therapy, or perhaps even the court of public appeals. In the next scene, we're introduced to Timmy's parents. Mr. Turner is played by Darren Norris as well, and in case you're curious, yes, he is the voice actor for him in the TV show as well. Darren Norris is just a very talented guy. Mrs. Turner is played by Susan Blakesley in the TV show as well, but here she's portrayed by Terrell Rothery. This is probably just because Susan Blakesley doesn't really look like Mrs. Turner. But I do like that this movie's trying to stay consistent with the TV show. The sound design is actually just sound effects that they use in the TV show, which makes this movie feel a lot more campy and loads more fun. Also, the fact that the dad still has the iconic voice is a huge plus.
Ooh, they need unskilled workers at that new dynamite factory. Sounds exciting and dangerous.
Quick, open mine.
And I'd hate to say it, but I didn't even realize that Mrs. Turner's voice wasn't the same until I did research to write this video. Mostly just because her voice isn't that memorable in my head. At least not in the way that characters like Cosmo, Wanda, and Crocker are. The Turner parents tell Timmy that he needs to get a job because they've sold the house and they're ready to go on their dream vacation around the world. And they're tired of having a jobless nigger around their house eating up all their food and making all that noise. But because Timmy is literally God, he just wishes for the house to not be sold and makes his way off to elementary school. In the next scene, Timmy is in class where instruction is led by none other than the iconic Mr. Crocker. Mr. Crocker isn't actually played by his TV counterpart, Carlos Alazraqui. Instead, he's played by David Lewis. I honestly didn't even notice because David Lewis does a really good job of playing Mr. Crocker in my opinion. I mean, he even does the thing.
And now I remember, he has...
It's not perfect, but it's pretty good for live action if you ask me. But similar to the TV show, Mr. Crocker is onto the fact that Timmy has fairy godparents because he's managed to stay in the 5th grade for 13 years. That's a really weird conclusion to come to. Not that he's just, stupid, academically challenged. No, he's magic, that's the solution. Alright. But to get Mr. Crocker off of his case, Timmy gives Mr. Crocker explosive diarrhea. Timmy is just kind of an asshole in this movie. You'll see that theme more and more as we go on. After Mr. Crocker leaves the classroom, Timmy summons 8,000 dodgeballs, one of which probably just breaks this kid's nose, and he leaves the class. Okay, seriously, this is a sus as thing to look at, especially because of Drake Bell's recent antics. Also, Timmy says this.
If getting out of school early on my birthday and having more time to be a kid is crazy, well then people strap me in a straitjacket.
And personally, I do think we should put Drake Bell in a straitjacket. I swear we never have any clue what this guy is gonna do next. Timmy says to Cosmo and Wanda that he'll never give his fairy godparents up for anything, but this is because he's never seen Daniela Monet before. Seriously, I can't believe Victoria's tried to gaslight us into believing that Trina wasn't hot for 4 years straight. Next, we're introduced to Hugh J. Magnate, played by Steven Weber. He's an original villain created specifically for this movie. You can tell he's evil because he wears a red tie and wants to drill for oil in Dimsdale. Timmy has become infatuated with Daniela Monet, who is an eco-activist in this movie, and is also incredibly athletic. She's protesting the building of the oil well because they have to cut down the Dimsdale dogwood to build it. Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, but I actually have to go with the evil capitalist on this one. Cutting down a tree for millions of dollars of oil that will make your town rich for years to come sounds like a good trade deal to me. I mean, yeah, it's fair to assume he has something more nefarious in mind, but she definitely doesn't know that. Okay, none of these things are actually slurs, but the way he says them make them sound awfully charged to me.
Sister Susie Saffron Wheatgrass Gulper, whatever your tree-hugging name is.
Can you imagine if he said tree hugger? It would have sounded much worse if he gave it the good old hard R. But this is where Timmy learns that the hot girl that he's fallen in love with is actually Tootie, played by Daniela Monet, because I haven't said it 2 times already. But even though Tootie tries to chain herself to the tree, Donald Trump doesn't back down and tries to bulldoze the tree even with Tootie attached to it. But Timmy, being the messiah on this ungrateful earth, makes the bulldozers break down and chainsaws turn into balloons. And he also makes the mayor's goat eat Magnate's pants, which is hilarious. Timmy goes to confront Tootie about how sexy and awesome she is. But she doesn't seem incredibly impressed by the fact that Timmy is seemingly stunted in growth at 10 years old. Also, she has the same mission statement as Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, you know, just traveling the world, making a difference, and trying to help helpless creatures.
But Tootie gives Timmy a hug, which gives him his first ever erection. Magnate meets up with Crocker, who says that he can solve all of Magnate's problems. Crocker tells Magnate that Timmy has fairies that cause Magnate's plan to go up in balloons, and rather than call Crocker the crackpot that he is, he agrees to give him hundreds of thousands of dollars and hires Crocker to catch Timmy's fairies. Maybe the extra runtime that got cut out of this movie was just all the legal jargon that they had to go through. I think I would watch a TV special of Crocker going to take out a bank loan. Oh, also they're gay lovers. Timmy describes his symptoms of love to Cosmo and Wanda, and after a mighty thorough prostate exam, they come to the conclusion that Timmy has fallen in love with Tootie, who then shows up at Timmy's door unannounced. Timmy's parents begin to shower Tootie with love and affection in the assumption that they'll get married. This freaks Timmy out and he tries to end his own life by jumping out of a window. After that fails, he runs into town where Tootie follows shortly behind him. Cosmo and Wanda also now think that it is in their best interest to keep Tootie away from Timmy so that she won't break up their happy family. Tootie manages to track down Timmy and asks him out on a date, which he quickly yet somewhat hesitantly agrees to. Cosmo and Wanda try to put a stop to it, but given the fact that he's talking to Daniela Monet, he's already been captivated by her womanly charm. Also, I can't take it anymore. How is Tootie attracted to a guy who dresses like a eraser? This guy has a chance, but I don't? I can't take it anymore. There's actually an original musical number here during their montage date. This song is called Lookin' Like Magic and is performed by Drake Bell and Daniela Monet. This was actually the beginning of Drake Bell's career as a Mexico-based pop artist. Well, this and the child endangerment charges. There's also parts in the montage about Crocker and Magnate building contraptions that don't work to try and capture Timmy's fairies. In the next scene, Timmy and Tootie are on a date at Fancy Restaurant. No, not a fancy restaurant, just Fancy Restaurant. Cosmo and Wanda try to sabotage Timmy's date with Tootie, but it ends up backfiring when Timmy wishes for a hat and Tootie gives him a fedora. Nathan? Kennedy? Thoughts? Well, you heard it here first. Timmy Turner has officially earned our respect. In a more extreme attempt to sabotage their date, Cosmo and Wanda turn into human versions of themselves. Human Cosmo is played by Jason Alexander, and human Wanda is played by Cheryl Hines. They sabotage Timmy's date with Tootie by pouring a bowl full of spaghetti and pasta sauce on her head. Okay, now you're just being dicks, because how does this affect Timmy's relationship with Tootie? As far as she's concerned, she just got terrible service. She would have no reason to attribute this to being Timmy's fault. Timmy actually confronts Cosmo and Wanda and makes them clean up Tootie. He understands where they're coming from, but is rightfully upset that he didn't get to be the first person to cover Tootie in wet noodles. Also, where the hell is Poof during all of this? Regardless, Timmy makes one last wish before the scene ends, and in the next scene, Timmy takes Tootie to the park, which he had cleaned up for her. Yeah, the whole 23-year-old Timmy is friends with 10-year-olds thing is a lot less cute when you remember that Drake Bell will literally be charged with sexual assault and child endangerment 6 years later. Timmy also gives Tootie his jacket. I don't really know why, it's gotta be like 75 degrees out. Timmy then falls out of the tree when he hears Wanda crying at the revelation that Timmy is about to get laid. Tootie then gets upset about why Timmy wouldn't kiss her, even though he did all of those wonderful things for her. She then gets so upset that she's left with no other choice than to name drop the movie.
Grow up, Timmy Turner!
She then promptly storms off. The Snow Bunny gets distracted by a snow bunny and is abducted by these two very large men in broad daylight. Seriously, no one besides these 4 kids saw this. She's screaming very loudly the entire time. She's been abducted by Mr. Magnate and this creepy as bunny. You know what? This is funny. This is funny and I'm not happy about it. Wanda and Cosmo are ecstatic that Tootie has been abducted by Magnate, but after a stern look from Poof, they realize they're kinda being massive dicks, and they decide to go grab Timmy and save Tootie. But just then, a wild Mr. Crocker appears with some gear that he stole from the set of Ghostbusters and captures the fairies. Wait, they were just having this conversation in the middle of broad daylight on a random street corner? Cause they're not at the park, so where the hell are they? Why would they be here? The Mistakes find and wake up Timmy to let him know that Tootie has been captured, and after wishing her back to no avail, he realizes the fairies have gone missing as well. So Timmy steals a dirt bike from Chapter 4 of Fortnite and goes to find Tootie and the fairies. Magnate also takes Tootie into his evil lair, one of the worst, most gruesome, most horrifying places to ever exist. The McDonald's Playpen. Alternative jokes include Chuck E. Cheese circa 2020 and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. Crocker's machine works by squeezing the magics out of the fairies via electricity. That is mildly uncomfortable to watch, but not as uncomfortable as him wishing for a ball pit because his dad never let him have one as a kid. Seriously, this dude has some serious issues. But he also wishes to make the ball pit bottomless and wishes for Crocker to fall inside. Magnate then wishes for upper body strength and becomes buff. He also wishes that his bodyguard was wearing a dress, which that also has some mildly concerning implications about the truth of his sexual identity. He then also makes this action figure into his personal cyborg servant and makes him hit the nene. But while dancing with the cyborg, Tootie manages to make her daring escape. At the same time, Timmy shows up at Magnate's evil lair. Magnate has a mustache now, by the way, and the evil cyborg chases Timmy around as he tries to save Tootie and the fairies, who are quickly running out of magic. So he'll have to save them all by himself. After taking the batteries out of the RoboCop clone trooper Lovechild, he manages to save Tootie but quickly finds himself cornered by Magnate. Timmy knows the exact thing he has to do to save the day, which is making out with Daniela Monet. Seriously, that is a wild way to end the movie. Also, this feels like a really bad omen.
Don't forget to feed the dog!
Cosmo, he doesn't have a dog!
Well, if you get one, don't forget to feed it!
He did indeed forget to feed the dog, and it died in one season. Timmy also tells Magnate to grow the f up and just leaves? I mean, I guess his work here is done, so that makes sense. But Magnate's assistant, Janice, accidentally deep fries him, but she seems to be pretty proud of herself about it, and so do all of the major news outlets. Jorgen von Strangel takes Timmy to the ethnically diverse Fairy Council, who tell Timmy about the new Timmy Turner loophole, which states, and I quote, "If there is ever a boy named Timmy Turner, and if he has kept and loved his fairies for more than 13 years, and saved Fairy World a couple of times, and promises to make wishes only for others and not his own selfish purposes, he may keep his fairies." End quote. Besides how oddly specific it is, it does go against the TV show in several ways. But I guess no matter what I say, it would kind of just be retconned by the fact that, one, the TV show never had a finale, so we can never know the things that possibly happened between the end of the show and the movie. And two, this is the canon end of the series, so nothing else really even matters up to this point, technically speaking, especially with the caveat that I just mentioned. But now that Timmy Turner's life has been relegated to charity work, they get a van called Wishful Thinking. Timmy and the fairies will drive around the world in the van, going to help out the people who really need it. Also, Timmy is now dressed like a 30-year-old man in the 70s who is about to settle his first of many divorces. Oh, also, Poof says his first words, and you know what, I'll just play it, because even if I explained it, it would sound like something I wrote as a joke.
Yo, man, it's gonna be so cool, man. We're gonna be bumping, man, trying to help the boys out. You know how we do it. You feel me, dog?
And the group flies off into the sky, and our movie ends. So I feel weird giving this movie a really in-depth review, mostly because it's not really a movie. It only qualifies as a movie because the movie calls itself a movie. This thing is only 47 minutes long, 45 if you take out the credits. There isn't a lot to judge this thing on, at least not fairly, but this movie calls itself a movie, so I'm gonna try my best to review it like one. So to start off, the acting is good. I mean, it's not a drama and it's based off of a kid's TV show, so a lot of the actors have very big over-the-top expressions, and I like it. I think that fits the world of the movie. Drake Bell does a really good job of playing a 23-year-old stunted as a 10-year-old, so he was a pretty good choice to cast, especially because in the real world, Drake Bell is actually a stunted 10-year-old. But the plot of this movie is just so bad. Like, Timmy is going to lose his fairies because he's falling in love, not because he's 5 years past the age of a legal adult. Like, I know he doesn't technically break duh rules, at least not in the terms of the movie itself, but it just feels so strange. And Poof hasn't aged in 13 years? I know he's a fairy child, but he's still a child, right? There has to be some difference. In the TV show, it made sense because time didn't pass in the TV show, but here it's just because they didn't want to give Poof a second thought. I really enjoy Crocker and Magnate as the bad guys. Oh, and speaking of which, is Crocker just dead? After he falls in the ball pit, we don't see him again. And there's no after credit scene. At least not in the Paramount Plus version of this movie. So that's just something that the writers seemingly forgot about. This movie does have really good sound design though, which isn't surprising because I mean, they literally took it from a TV show, and this TV show has won awards from the past for its sound design, so of course it's gonna be good here. Not sure why we had a musical number though. I can't complain about it too much in terms of it being bad or good. I like the song. It was for a montage too, so that makes sense. But having your two main characters sing a song about them falling in love while they're falling in love kinda takes the viewer out of the experience, especially when the movie doesn't break the fourth wall. Camera work and cinematography are both unbelievably mid, but this is a Nick movie. I don't know what I was expecting, but this movie is actually pretty funny. I don't care for the fact that 90% of Cosmo's jokes are just at the expense of Wanda, but some of them are still pretty good. I like that when Timmy falls out of the tree and Tootie thinks it's because he's trying to avoid her, he literally just says, "I just fell out of a tree," to make her realize how outlandish that sounds. So let's go ahead and round it all out. We have a funny movie with a terrible plot, okay acting, okay camera work, pretty shoddy writing, and it serves as a shitty canon ending of a TV show that at the time was in its heyday. I think a 5 out of 10 is fair. Yeah, no, it's not amazing, but for what the movie is, it's not bad. I think this movie did what it set out to do. I just think that this movie could have done more and been a lot more than it was. But for what it is, I want to give this movie a 9 out of 10 on the fun score. Largely because this movie is only 45 minutes long and it's not going to cost you much of an afternoon to turn it on and turn your mind off and watch it. I think Fairly Odd Parents fans are the only people who can really have a good time with it, but that's literally who it was made for. People who had been watching the show for almost 10 years. You were supposed to have grown up with Timmy Turner. That's probably the point of him being 23, or at least that's my theory. So I do think the movie was objectively bad, but it's fun if you like Fairly Odd Parents. Thank you guys for watching this week's video. Sorry for a shorter one. When I decided to make this video, I didn't realize that this movie was only 45 minutes long. But this does give me more time to put in the Descendants 2 video that I'll have up next. Make sure you guys follow my socials, the links are in the descriptions, as well as the Discord. I feel like we have a lot of fun in there. And some people have made some amazing fan art that I've enjoyed getting a lot, so come chat with us there. Me, Nathan, and Kennedy gotta get back to practicing our ninjutsu. I don't think that's possible, Kennedy.